Alright, hey guys, and welcome back to another film review. This one is Spider-Man Far From Home. So I watched this film yesterday night, and I must say it was a mind-blowing film. It was one of the best action sequences in any MCU film, like ever, and definitely the best action sequence in a Spider-Man film ever done. It need not be the greatest action film of all time because, of course, most of the action is obviously CGI, but nonetheless, it was eye candy and it was something really spectacular to watch. The visuals are something that I think will be discussed for many years to come because of how well they created Mysterio and his abilities when taking on Spider-Man. And we all know that a lot of what Spider-Man does, although is done via CGI, is not anything mystical or colorful or anything like that. But for Mysterio, man, my God, the visuals compared to even like that of the Doctor Strange films before this um, were just off the charts. There were one or two parts that felt a little bit too cartoonish, but I can let that pass considering how amazing the rest of the film was. But in terms of storytelling and in terms of character development, this film was really bad. In terms of comedy, it was really bad. And in terms of the overall dialogues and performance of the characters, it really relied very much on Tom Holland and Jake Gyllenhaal. And besides these two, the rest of the characters felt very flat compared to any film in general, I would say. So if this is your first time here, once again, welcome, and this is a spoiler review, so spoiler alert. Now, um, let's get started because this is a nice and decently long film. It's 2 hours, which is a good runtime for a film, I believe. It stands in my average mark. I usually feel that 2:30 is the best for any film because you have plenty of time to do stuff. But I guess if your film has a very simple story, then 2 hours is just about right. So in terms of how the story begins, it basically picks off right after Avengers Endgame, and it starts with a scene of Nick Fury and Mariah Hill um, investigating the like seismic activity or something, and then they like find out that apparently there's some area was attacked, like I think it's Mexico or something like that. They were attacked by a kind of storm which had a face in it, and basically it was one of the elementals that performed the attack, so they go to investigate the elemental attack. And then right after that they cut to this terrible scene of a montage. And this montage is basically like how the MCU, usually starts rolling, and then you see like the comic book slides, and then the Marvel logo appears. Yeah, this one was completely made fun of by Whitney Houston's "I Will Always Love You" song, and then they showed like a slide of Tony Stark, who is now dead, Black Widow, who's now dead, Vision, who's now dead. So yeah, they basically have a montage of all of these characters in the stupidest and funniest way, starting off like a complete comedy film. And is because apparently this montage is like a slideshow done by a bunch of students in their school. They have like a news station in their school or something, and they're just like reading it out. Some of these high schools, they have too much time for their students, so I guess the students join like a DJ club or like a news club, and then they have like their own bulletin for the students. Yeah, so it's like a slideshow created by one of these bulletins, and then the students are reading it out to the rest of the school. So I mean, I get it. It's done by students, so it's supposed to be funny. But they completely made a joke out of Tony Stark, Black Widow, and whoever else who died during the events of Endgame, Infinity War, and thereof. So I felt it was a very bad start for the film, setting off the tone as a complete comedy from the get-go, and remaining as a complete comedy to the very end, which with a very mixed how can I put it, like moments in the film, because this film like the moments Spider-Man has with Mysterio are by no means comic. or funny. They are not by no means comedy. They are all actually serious moments of Peter Parker trying to figure out his place in the world now after Tony Stark is gone, and how he feels that he has the responsibility of stepping up to be the next Iron Man. And also later on, when Mysterio is revealed to be a villain, which is pretty obvious. I think anyone who didn't know that just never read any Spider-Man comics, or just doesn't know Spider-Man well enough, doesn't know his villains well enough, doesn't know about Mysterio and the Sinister Six. So if you don't know anything about this and you went into the film and you got a wow moment from figuring out that Mysterio is a villain, well then, congratulations. I'm glad you enjoyed the film by not knowing a thing. Because unfortunately, for those of us Marvel fans, not MCU fans, who actually read the comics and know about these stuff, we were very, very, very disappointed because the plot was extremely predictable and there was absolutely nothing to it, nothing new to it at all. The post credit scene had the only twist that we really needed, and I'm not going to judge the entire film based on a post-credit scene twist, because the rest of the film was just flat in its plot. It was very straightforward. So yeah, so the moments with Mysterio were by no means comedy, but the rest of the film was pure comedy. That was pretty much all I have to say about it. And the comedy was really, really bad. There were very, very awkward moments in Far From Home. So first off, we have like scenes of this. What do you call this thing? Um, the group Spider-Man's classmates and all, like explaining the news bulletin, sorry, explaining the stuff of the events that happened after Endgame, explaining how everyone disappeared in what is called a blip. And then they showed another progressive scene of how those who disappeared in the blip eventually reappeared, and therefore they were 5 years younger than those who had not disappeared. And they call it a blip because apparently no one knows that Thanos came and snapped everyone, so they don't call it the snap. So I guess there were a lot of things that the people who are not involved with superheroes, they don't know things like at all. I guess the Avengers never had a public announcement or a meeting. They never discussed the events of what happened after Infinity War. Like they never went and told anyone prior to the events of Endgame that this is what happened. Thanos came and then did the snap, and apparently everyone else in Endgame also didn't know that any of this happened. Like Thanos reappearing, a giant spaceship attacking the Avengers base. Apparently no one on planet Earth besides the Avengers knows any of these happened, which is really, really weird and dumb. But regardless, that aside, Spider-Man's team prepares to go on a trip, and they're going to Paris. And this is the first film that actually took us like traveling to like different locations. Of course, I don't know whether they did that in real life because it all could have been sets. But regardless, in the film, it was really nice to see a change of scenery from your classic New York to like several new locations across the world. So I believe they went to like France, they went to the UK, they went to the Netherlands, they went to Germany, and I think they also went to Italy. Did they go to Italy? Not very sure about the last one. But yeah, there's Germany. I think the yeah, those are like the general places. So anyway, they went to one more place, which is I think it's Czech Republic, right? It's Prague. They went to Prague, and I think Prague is. Wait, let me just Google this up so that I don't screw myself. Yes, it's the largest city in Czech Republic. Okay, good. So they went to Prague, which is in Czech Republic, which they showed the beautiful culture of, which was very nice to see in the film. So they will travel first to Paris, and apparently, Peter Parker has the idea to want to like tell Mary Jane, MJ, sorry, not Mary Jane, MJ, because that's what they call it throughout the film. It's just MJ. He wants to tell MJ that he really, really likes her, and then this MJ, she's very awkward and very geeky, and she's a complete geek. She's way more geeky than Peter Parker in this film. So this is a totally different Peter Parker from what we see in most of the comics. This is a more of very relaxed, very modernized, very calm and collected Peter Parker. And in the times that he is made to be awkward, he's still very awesome about it. Because unlike the original Spider-Man film, the one which Tobey Maguire starred in, this guy doesn't really get bullied. He just gets called weird names by another guy who looks like a total dork as well. So everyone's a dork, everyone is a geek, everyone is their own kind of, in a weird, dorky, funny little way, comedians. There is no serious character in his class trip. Everyone is just weird in their own way, which is absolutely fine for a bunch of high school students, because who isn't weird when they're in high school? Hey, all right, and then he doesn't get bullied really. Yeah, his life is perfect, nearly perfect. The only thing that he falls short of is in the Avengers department, which is trying to keep up Tony Stark and everything. But as far as school, everything is like going fantastic. Everything is absolutely fine. So they start off their trip to go to Paris. Before that, he finds out that Happy is now, like, there are hints that Happy is dating his aunt, which eventually turns out to be true, which I feel is completely unnecessary and seems forced. And the thing is, right, I don't mind a plot that has purpose and turns out to be funny. I just don't like it when a plot is made purely just to be funny. Like, if you have like a scene that is funny as part of a story, I understand. But if it's like just funny because, oh, we want something to be funny, let's just add something to be funny every 5 minutes. That's comedy film. That's what you call a comedy film, and this was a comedy film. This was more so a comedy film than it was an action film. And trust me, there was such amazing and well choreographed action in this that you'll be impressed by just how much comedy there was on top of that, and how terrible the comedy was in this film. So Peter has this like really awkward teacher. I don't have a photo of him here, but that really awkward teacher does really, really awkward jokes, and none of them really land. And there are scenes of him like taking photos, like walking around the town, the city, like doing all kinds of weird things, always talking in like a weird and strange way. And then there's another teacher who apparently believes the elementals, like he's a science teacher, and he apparently starts believing in like witchcraft, and that the elementals are all done in, excuse me, my tongue is dead this morning, all done by witchcraft or something. And like, I don't know if that's a joke, because there's no like build up to it, and then you realize that, oh, they were actually trying to make a joke, and then you're like, oh, okay, well, it clearly doesn't land. Like, I don't know what on earth they were thinking. So you know what, if I were to not talk about the jokes alone, I think this video would be like 10 minutes. So I'm just gonna like skip all the jokes, which is 70% of the film. So if you like really stupid jokes, like, you can go ahead and watch this. But I think Tom and Jerry has better jokes, so I'm just gonna go ahead and talk about the main plot. So Peter Parker is trying to step up into Tony's shoes. Nick Fury is trying to call him for a mission. Nick Fury wants him to investigate on the elementals. So when he ends up in Paris, by pure coincidence, Nick Fury says it's absolutely coincidental that they both end up in the same place. He tranks his friend and then talks to him, and then takes him in. So the story starts off when they go to Paris. There's an elemental attack. Hydro Man attacks. Peter gets recruited by Nick Fury to go to this like underground Shield HQ. This is apparently in some sewers, and then over there, Quentin Beck is already established, and apparently Quentin has been helping them stop the other elemental attacks across the world. And then Peter is gifted this glasses by Tony Stark. The glasses contains a very powerful, multi-billion-dollar, super powerful AI called Edith, which is super stupid and just follows any instruction given to it without questioning the actual need of authority. And there's no security protocols for Edith. Like, if I were to tell Edith, kill Nick Fury, Edith doesn't care. Edith will just do it. As long as I'm the owner, Edith does not question my morality, my senses, and it's not as intelligent as Jarvis. Like, can you imagine if Tony Stark's Jarvis was told, Jarvis, I need you to kill Peter Parker? Jarvis wouldn't do it, because Jarvis is an AI, artificial intelligence, which means it's intelligent. It has a certain capacity to think for itself. Edith is not AI. Alright, Edith is voice command. That's what Edith is. Alright, so calling it a super powerful AI is stupid. Because what happens is, Peter Parker eventually takes on a fight with some of the elementals, and Mysterio helps him defeat it. And he immediately believes that Mysterio is a good guy, so he, goes out for like a drink with him, and then he makes another stupid joke saying that, oh, I'm not old enough to drink yet. But regardless, that's fair enough. That's a good joke. So you see, there's like things like that that I don't mind. So he, Mysterio calls him like, hey, let's get a drink after the fight, right? And then Peter's like, oh, but I'm not 21 yet. That's like a reasonable joke. You don't have to laugh out loud, but that's a joke that lands because it goes with the flow of the plot. That's like something that you would normally converse like. But as for the other things that happened, man, they were just so bad. So anyway, the Peter Parker goes over to Mysterio, and then he feels that because Mysterio is so powerful and strong, and then he just met Mysterio like a day ago, and apparently they ended up in a fight, and Mysterio, they ended up fighting the elementals. So Mysterio solved it. So Peter Parker's like, oh, since I met you like 2 days ago, and then you helped me fight off an elemental, I feel that you should be the next Tony Stark. And then hence Edith over to him, like full control and everything. He like tells Edith, I want to give full control to Quentin Beck. And then Edith just like, all right, are you sure? And then he's like, yep, I'm sure. All right, full control given. Quentin Beck, you can now do whatever the hell you want with Edith. So he takes the glasses, and then it's revealed to us, the audience, that he is Mysterio, and he has been working together with the crew to do all of this. And no one knows this, right? No one, not even Nick Fury, not whatever's left of Shield, Mariah Hill, Peter Parker. No one, none of the other Avengers, nothing. No one knows about Mysterio and his entire team's plan. And his team is not small; they're like a backstage crew of about 10, 20 people or something. So they all are Mysterio because they all work together to create what Mysterio creates as his illusions. And it's revealed that Quentin was the one that worked with Tony Stark's AR, augmented reality system. The one he called Barf in one of the previous Iron Man movies or something. And then he wants to take revenge because of that. And he was kicked out of the company. And then they also show this guy who used to work as a weapons manufacturer for Tony Stark. So apparently it's like Tony Stark's ex-crew just taking revenge on him. So it's always another movie just about Tony Stark. Every film is about Tony Stark. The first film was about Tony Stark. The second film was about Tony Stark. It's basically the Iron Man universe. So once again, we see Spider-Man in the shadows of Iron Man. And after he has handed Edith over to Mysterio, he just starts using his augmented reality technology to install into Edith. Because Edith is like a defense system, right? So it's like these really small drones. There's like millions of those drones. They're launched from like a satellite, a Stark Industries satellite. And you can command those drones to like, strike someone, kill someone or anything like that. And it's not an AI, all right? Don't get me wrong. It's not an AI because it does not have any intelligence. It just listens to voice command. So it's like a really good voice command system. That's what it was. And this Edith is used by them as a form of as like a method to create new illusions. And then because of their destructive capabilities, when he creates destruction with the elementals, it seems to be very, very realistic. So he wants to create a mass calamity to once and for all create an Avengers level threat and show the world that Mysterio is the one that saved them from it. So that's Mysterio's big plan, like every other Mysterio film. The first encounter Mysterio has with Spider-Man before, like right after he gets Edith and right after he gets found out, was really, really beautiful. The mind-blowing action sequence of Spider-Man being tossed and thrown around by Mysterio, and then finally a train hits Spider-Man. It's later shown that he's fine, he's absolutely okay with that. And then apparently a police officer arrested him and has like locked him up in a jail, and they think that he's called Night Monkey because he's wearing this black suit, the stealth suit. This is prepared to him by Shield. Nothing is well explained about this suit. We see him wearing a utility belt. There's no purpose to it. There's no purpose to this suit at all, actually. There's nothing in his eyes, nothing special about the suit. He just slings webs like normal and just his usual thing. So the stealth suit doesn't do any stealthing. It's just black so that you can't see him at night, but you can still see him at night. So there's that. Anyway, so yeah, after he wakes up in jail, the police officer is like, making a report about Night Monkey or something. He just breaks the lock on the prison and just walks out. Apparently, there's no other guards on duty, no CCTV, no police officers see him there. He just walks out. There's no photo of him taken or something. I don't know. There's just so many plot holes to that entire scene that it felt completely unnecessary. He could have just woken up in like a subway and then just walked out of there after being knocked by the train, because there was literally no difference. So he gets a phone somewhere in the Netherlands, because the train that hit him was a bullet train, so he literally went across the country or something. And then he wakes up in Netherlands, and then Happy comes to fetch him. So Happy had a very big role in this film. He seemed more like a father figure, and now that he's like hooking up with his aunt, he's clearly a uncle figure. uh, Dear God, another person who wants to hook up with May Parker. Like, I mean, we get it. She's a single, woman, and people want to, hook up with her. But I mean, with Tony Stark just gone and all that, and it seems like she has no sense of remorse to losing Tony Stark. So that means she never really cared for him in the first place, which kind of makes sense. I guess no one really cares for Tony Stark because he really has Pepper Potts, and she probably just knew he was really flirting with her. So I guess the one who really got close to her was Happy in the first place, that they didn't show early on and they're just showing now because they just need someone to fill up the place of the guy who likes May Parker. You get what I mean? You get how these things go. So yeah, it's just that. So anyway, he fetches Peter, and then Peter creates a new suit, which is the suit that you see for the rest of the film, which is this black and red one. The design is really nice. The suit is really great. Once again, nothing special about the suit. He just shoots webs from it. It's not like the suit that Tony first made for him, the one with the AI and everything inside, which so many functions and everything. None of that is in this film. He never uses any of that. He wears that suit early on, but he completely gets wrecked by what's this, Mysterio, because he went in with the stealth suit. Yeah, and then this, like the original Tony Stark made suit was too outstanding, like stands out too much or something. So he went with the black suit, got wrecked by Mysterio. Then he creates his own suit, which has absolutely no other function besides shooting webs. And then he goes to take on Mysterio in the final battle. So Happy actually gives like a coded message to Nick Fury to tell him that Mysterio is, after him or something like that. And then Mariah Hill just snipes the drone that is targeting Nick Fury, and then that's it. Their character arc is over. They do absolutely nothing else in this film. They just like get Spider-Man and this guy who Quentin Beck, who they actually believe is from another world. Like apparently they have no other images or footage of him actually working on one of Tony Stark's largest AR projects. So he's like, I don't know how, maybe they use technology once again to just wipe out all of the data. They can easily hack into Shield tech apparently, because Shield firewalls are useless. So yeah, in this film, Nick Fury is not powerful at all. He's pathetic. Shield is pathetic in this film. They have no idea absolutely of anything that's going on. There's no other Avenger on the planet. It's just Spider-Man and Mysterio, literally, fighting off everything and then eventually trying to kill each other. So yeah, Peter Parker takes on Mysterio in like one final battle where Mysterio has full control of Edith, so he sends all the drones to try to like create this giant storm. So Spider-Man creates this suit with only one special ability, which is the webs can like shoot electricity, like he can channel electricity through his webs. So he uses that as a method to take out the drones in the drones inside the illusion, but he doesn't use it after that. Like after just shooting the electricity once through the webs inside the illusion created by Mysterio and taking out like a good chunk of the drones, the electrifying ability is never used again. So that's it. The suit's function is over, and then he loses his web shooters. Great. So it's once again Spider-Man without his web shooters, just like the ending of the previous Spider-Man films, every Spider-Man film ever. And I mean, fair enough. They want to show him without his web shooters, so they make this other stupid joke. Peter Tingles. So Spider-Man's spider sense in this film is called Peter Tingles. So this is a thing from the comics where someone makes fun of his spider sense and they call it like Peter Tingles, which we all know has a double meaning to it. But regardless, in this film, it's just called Peter Tingles throughout. So in the MCU, spider sense is known as Peter Tingles. All right, this is canon. All right, so just accept your fate, guys. Peter Tingles. So Peter Tingles is used in this film in order for Spider-Man to fight Mysterio in the final boss battle. And the final boss battle was one of the most amazing things. Just him taking on all of these drones and then finally ending up in like this bridge on top of a tall tower. And then Peter like rushes through the tower to destroy all the drones with his eyes closed, using Peter Tingles to take out all of the drones that are in his way, on his way to Mysterio. And then finally, he defeats Mysterio, and then Mysterio is like, I don't know, he says something like it's never over or something like that, just some generic dialogue. And then Mysterio seems dead on the ground, and then Peter checks with Edith to see if all this is still real, and Edith says all the illusions are down. That's Edith's reply. So he's like, okay. And then after that is done, the main story is over, right? He just walks out of the fight and literally with his mask off walks on the streets, and MJ comes to like kiss him, and then they they make up for the time that they lost, because oh yeah, and she figures out that he's Spider-Man very easily in this film. And I think we saw that in the trailer, which was a very big spoiler, so nothing new to that. She just figures out he's Spider-Man, and he tells her that he's Spider-Man. So yep, that's over with. So she walks up to him on the streets. His mask is off, and literally there's no one else watching this. In a time where they show people with their cameras, like most of the time, like in the starting of this film, they showed like kids with their cameras recording everything that's happening in the elementals. Apparently everyone forgot about their cameras in the ending of the film, because no one records Peter Parker walking in a Spider-Man suit without his mask, kissing Mary Jane in the middle of a bridge. Like, if Mary Jane can walk there, I'm pretty sure there are other civilians, but nope, there's no civilians. So overall, the stakes of the film felt very low, because most of the destruction that was involved always had like his friends or what being in the center of its attention. There was not really any other person that Spider-Man saves in this film in particular. He just tells people to like walk away from the danger or move away from the danger. That's all he ever does. He never like webs them to safety, or like jumps in and pulls them, and then they're like, wow, Spider-Man saved me, or Night Monkey saved me, or something like that. Nothing like that. Spider-Man barely saves anyone in this film. And then very early on as well, he doesn't have his mask, so he's like in his like regular Peter Parker attire, but he wears this like stupid jester half mask, and he's like web swinging around the city. I think if anyone took a photo of that, especially his classmates, they would have instantly recognized it as Peter Parker. Because I mean, if your friend is wearing like his regular clothes and he's just turned away from you, you would still know it's your friend or your classmate. So yeah, if he's like, even if he wears the jester mask, he just looks like your friend wearing a jester mask. It's not really a camouflage for him, and no one gets a picture of that. It's never in the news coverage. So the overall like scope of what the crowd is and isn't is not really there. Like in films like the previous Spider-Man, it was always a struggle for Peter Parker to keep his identity, because he doesn't want to get seen in public. In this film, it seems that people in the public don't really pay attention to you. They only pay attention to you when it's convenient. So it felt like that. And then, yep, that's the gist of it. So after the main storyline is over, come the post-credit scenes, and the post-credit scenes are apparently way more important than the actual film, because in the post-credit scene we see J. Jonah Jameson returning finally, and he is played once again by what's his name? What's his name? The one who played J. Jonah Jameson, J.K. Simmons. Yeah. So J.K. Simmons plays J. Jonah Jameson once again in this film. After a long time, he's returning, because I guess they couldn't find anyone else to play J. Jonah Jameson. So he comes in, and he what do you call it? He just called Spider-Man a menace and everything like that. And apparently, there's footage that Mysterio took right before the second he died, and in that footage, he reveals that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, and then the film kind of ends on that note, that serious note, that the whole world now knows in an announcement by um, J. Jonah Jameson that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. So I don't know. They have to pick up from that eventually. And then the scene after that, like the second post-credit scene, shows that Nick Fury and Mariah Hill were Skrulls this entire time. Skrulls, okay, Skrulls, the ones from Captain Marvel, the green ones. And the real Nick Fury is somewhere on an alien spaceship far away in another galaxy, like in his own mission or something, because he's wearing like a vacation suit. He's like taking a break, and then he's walking up to like the viewing bay of the spaceship, and that's it. It cuts off from there. So let me just tell you that the comedy that I enjoyed the most in this film mostly came from Peter's friend, the one who plays as Ned Leeds, right? So his role in this film as a comedian was the best. All the other comedy in this film felt very forced and was really poorly thought of. It was really bad because most of this film is that really awkward and weird comedy. Um, in this film, Tom Holland's relationship with Zendaya was nice. It was warm, it was cheeky, it was clumsy, and it was this sort of modern, geeky, romantic, awkward relationship. And I liked it. I liked it. It's not the greatest. Of course, it's not very mature. It's very comic-y, which I like personally. But I don't know how you guys see romantic films or romantic scenes. But for me, I felt that this was kind of the justice that they got because the two of them are very much very geeky in this film. The So in that sense, it was really nice. Tom Holland played a fantastic Spider-Man. He's definitely deserving in his role as Spider-Man, and I want to see him in like 10 other films. He's amazing. His acting is amazing. His friend Ned as well brought in much needed, like solid comedy, all right, like really good comedy. And I really want Ned to have a bigger role in the next film because in this film, he was mostly just making out with one of his new classmates, and they're like boyfriend and girlfriend, and then the relationship ends at like the end of the film. So that was kind of unfortunate, but nonetheless, I want Ned to have a better role, the guy in the chair role, properly in the upcoming films because he didn't get any of that in this one. And then Flash Thompson's role was terrible in this film. It was absolutely useless. Quentin Beck, Mysterio, played by Jake Gyllenhaal. I have to say, Jake Gyllenhaal's Mysterio was solid. It was amazing. Jake Gyllenhaal is a fantastic actor. And this is just my own fan theory. I believe that Mysterio is not dead yet. I believe that whatever we saw was just all part of an illusion. Or it was another guy who was made to look like Jake Gyllenhaal when he died. And it was all just so that Jake Gyllenhaal could get footage of Spider-Man in the last minute before making his escape, because he knew that he would not be able to defeat Spider-Man there and then. So, and also we see a scene of one of the Mysterio staff, like the guy who used to manufacture weapons for Tony Stark. We seen a scene of him like taking a copy of Edith on like a pen drive. I don't know how he managed to copy it on a pen drive, must be really advanced. But regardless, I believe they could have reprogrammed Edith to once and for all ignore Mysterio's existence to the world, which would have been the reason why Edith didn't answer Peter Parker properly, because Peter questioned Edith, is this still an illusion when Mysterio is dead? And then Edith says, the illusions are all down, or something like that. So it could mean that it's not an illusion, it's actual makeup or something, and then there's someone else dead there in his place. It could be something like that. Or it could be that Mysterio did actually die, but the one that died was the Jake Gyllenhaal Mysterio, and not Mysterio as a team, and someone else will take up his mantle as Mysterio, because Mysterio is a crew. And until the very end of the film, no one will ever solve the fact that Mysterio was actually part of a large team. And as a result, even Nick Fury and Spider-Man don't go on to pursue the idea that Mysterio is not fully dead because his team still lives on. There's nothing like that, you know. Basically, Mysterio won as far as everything else goes. And then as for the destruction we see in the film, a lot of people in the film seem to get affected by, you know, the water and all of that, but we don't get to see anyone admitted in hospitals. The stakes felt very low in this film, and definitely there was no other Avenger, you know, involved. It was just all Spider-Man doing everything, so we need explanation as to where the other Avengers really are. And I mean, if you have such a big, like, you know, scale event, you know, like storm brewing and things getting destroyed, what happened to the sanctums of like the Sorcerer Supremes? They clearly don't do anything. They clearly let people die, you know, if they die at all, because they don't show anyone dying. So I guess no one died and the stakes were very low at, you know, in the first place. So it could have been that. Happy had a much bigger role than the previous films. He was really nice to see. He felt like a really nice fatherly figure to Peter Parker, and he's definitely probably going to actually become a fatherly figure. My God. So he was really nice to watch in this film. But kudos to the performances of Tom Holland and Jake Gyllenhaal. Those two were definitely solid, and they carried most of the film. Samuel L. Jackson played his role as Nick Fury, but it was a very underwhelming role because I guess he was given a very limited role as what was apparently a Skrull, and that was that. So overall, in terms of action, this film was solid. If it was rated purely by action, I would give it like a 8 out of 10. I guess the only thing the action kind of lacked in was realism because we can all tell that it's just purely CGI. But in terms of CGI, it outshines any other like CGI based action, except maybe Avatar. But regardless, I'm gonna go ahead and write my rating over here. All right, there you go. Don't freak out. It's a 6 out of 10. So the reason for this is very obvious. The story was very, very bad. Everyone knew from the get-go that Mysterio will eventually turn out to be a villain. There was no reveal of a new villain, and if you didn't know that Mysterio was a villain, well, lucky you. You don't read the comics. But regardless, the plot was really poor. It was just about Peter trying to, eventually confess his love to Mary Jane, which turns out to be like not Mary Jane, sorry, MJ, which comes out in a very awkward scene that didn't really like it didn't really feel it. It's not the same as the Mary Jane we saw in what's his name, Tobey Maguire's version. You can actually feel the tension in him trying to confess his love. You can feel the tension of him knowing that he'll get rejected and all that. In this film, it's just like, oh, MJ apparently liked Peter too from like very long at the get go and stuff like that. So they just very easily get into a relationship at the end of the film. There's no weight to it. There's no boundaries to it. She doesn't end up being the damsel in this film. She and some of Peter's classmates just end up in a sticky situation where Mysterio tries to send a drone to assassinate them, and Happy is defending them. And apparently, Happy, being head of security for Tony Stark previously, doesn't carry a gun or any weapon, and he doesn't know how to fight the drones in any way. So that was really bad. So apparently Tony Stark, who created Edith, a really powerful advanced AI for the next Iron Man, didn't create anything to protect his own friend Happy. I have no idea what they were coming up or what they were smoking when they created the script, but it was really bad. So that's it. The story gets points for its amazing graphics and animation, its amazing action sequences, the performances of namely Tom Holland and Jake Gyllenhaal. It was fun for the most part. The comedy felt very bad. The awkwardness was bad. I really want to rate this film lower, but I feel really bad because Tom Holland did so well in this film. I feel that he deserves much better script. He deserves a much better and bigger role as Spider-Man. He deserves to be a more independent Spider-Man, not one that is in Tony Stark's shadow forever. I swear, if they come up with one more film about a revenge on Tony Stark, or someone who just doesn't like Tony Stark or anything like that, I'm going to stop watching the MCU films once and for all because generally they're just trash. And when you make a suit for Spider-Man, at least do something cool with it, right? Not just shoot webs. And I mean, showing Nick Fury in, like, I mean, I get it, it's a Skrulls, but showing that Skrull that's supposed to be the replacement for Nick Fury, like, not know half of the thing that's happening in the world, it's just completely unlike Nick Fury's character. So yeah, I don't know, I didn't like it. And yep, that's the gist of it. That's the idea of the film. So it's an honest 5 out of 10, but I am telling you, I'm giving it a 6, a literal +1, because of how this film was carried by the amazing performance of Tom Holland and Jake Gyllenhaal. So other than that, if I were to close my eye on the solo performances of the actors, this is a 5 out of 10 film. But this is my final rating. So I mean, if you guys have not watched this film, well, you could probably just watch the post-credit scenes, and it'll be better than the rest of the plot. But honestly, watch it for its amazing action sequences, which are definitely the best of any Spider-Man film I have watched ever before, and one of the best in the MCU. This is on par with the action sequences we saw on Infinity War. And as for Mysterio, they actually did it. They actually created an amazing Mysterio, and probably one of the best villains in the MCU. And I think it's like, maybe, I guess, the Infinity War, not the Endgame Thanos, the Infinity War Thanos first, followed probably by Ultron, and then this Mysterio guy. The only reason why I feel that Ultron ranks a little bit higher was because Ultron had a plan that was, I guess, slightly better thought of, because Ultron was like born in a day and then figured everything out. Mysterio took a really long time to plan, and it was really nice. He works in like a large team, but I felt that it was kind of weak in the sense where you don't see his team doing, like, you see his team always on the voice, right, voice line and all that, but initially you see a much larger team, so you only get to see like 2 3 people like actually doing things from his team, like, where the rest of them, because it's like Ocean's 12 but with 2 people working, or maybe Ocean's 20 in this case. It's like Ocean's 11 actually, but it's Ocean's 20 with like only 3 or 4 people doing their part. And where's the rest of the crew? We don't know. So I don't know. They could have taken it a lot better in many ways. I was really disappointed with the plot of the story. I was really disappointed with the comedy. Um, and yeah, I don't really want to rant about it, but I'm just upset because, once again, it's just another one of those potential films where you create a film with so much potential, you build up a character with so much potential, you have such fantastic actors, you have such fantastic graphics development team, and you throw it away with, you know, uh, an absolutely flat plot and really, really badly written jokes. So there's that. So yeah, that's it from me. I'm sorry if this turned out to be a bit of a rant, but I have to. I mean, these are really big films. They get rated 10 out of 10s, completely undeserving of it. As for those who like really stupid plots and really poor jokes, you guys might have enjoyed this film. Well, good for you. But I guess for me, this is definitely better than Endgame. I think I can give that. Yeah, it's definitely better than Endgame by all means. But nowhere near being any better film than that. Nowhere near Spider-Man 2, and to be honest, I think it was on equal terms with Spider-Man 3. I'm talking about Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man 3, the one that everyone thinks is like the worst film in the world. Well, it's not the worst film in the world, because it is it had better jokes than this film, to be honest. Yeah, the only thing that this film had better was a better villain. The villain in this film literally wrecked, like, like literally owned this film, and that was the reason that this film is like on equal terms, because that film did better in other things. Like, the plot of Spider-Man 3 was better. The goblin scenes were nicer. The build up of the character of Peter Parker was nicer, and all that. This one is just, you're relying too much on Spider-Man and Mysterio, and everything else is just not there. Like the entire film might as well just have been a fight between Spider-Man and Mysterio, and that would have been just better overall to watch. So yep, that's it from me. Adios.